I never thought I'd find evidence of my own erasure in my parents' attic, neatly labeled and stored in a collection of dusty videotapes. But there it was, spread across 2 decades of carefully curated family memories. My name is Alara, and until yesterday I thought I was just the less remarkable Mitchell daughter. Now I know it was by design. I'd volunteered to help clear out the attic before my sister Vivian's engagement party next month. Mom had been pestering everyone about it for weeks, worried that some distant relative might need to use the guest room that had become our family's unofficial storage unit. That's how I found myself spending my Saturday knee-deep in cardboard boxes, sneezing from dust, and discovering just how methodically I'd been pushed into the background of my own life. The first tape I picked up was labeled Christmas 1999. I remembered that Christmas vividly. I'd won my first piano recital that year, playing Carol of the Bells while Vivian had forgotten her lines in the school play. But when I plugged the tape into the old VCR player we kept upstairs, the footage told a different story. There was Vivian's play in full, every stumble carefully edited out. My recital? Reduced to a brief shot of me taking a bow, the actual performance nowhere to be found. This has to be a coincidence, I muttered, grabbing another tape. Family Vacation 2005. I remembered that trip too. I'd won the resort's swimming competition while Vivi had gotten seasick and spent 2 days in the hotel room. The tape showed Vivian lounging gracefully by the pool, looking like a magazine model, and me, barely visible in the background despite being the one with the medal around my neck. My hands were shaking as I went through tape after tape. Each one told the same story. Vivian front and center, her failures smoothed away while my achievements were minimized or completely absent. Mom probably had edited these tapes deliberately, creating a narrative that made Vivian shine while I faded into the background. The sound of footsteps on the stairs made me jump. Alara? Are you still up there? Mom's voice carried through the attic door. Dinner's almost ready. I quickly shoved the tapes back into their box. Coming, I called back, trying to keep my voice steady. Did you find anything interesting? She asked as I descended the stairs, dust clinging to my clothes. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I'd never noticed before. A slight tension around her eyes, a carefully maintained smile. She knew what was up there. She'd always known. Nothing special, I lied, matching her smile with one of my own. Just old memories. Well, wash up quickly. Your sister's coming over to discuss the engagement party details, and you know how she hates to be kept waiting. Of course. Everything had to revolve around Vivian's perfect moment, her perfect life, her perfect narrative. I'd spent years believing I was just naturally less successful, less special. But now I knew it wasn't nature, it was nurture. Or rather, the careful lack of it. As I headed to the bathroom to wash up, my phone buzzed with a text from Clara, my best friend. Got that job lead you wanted. Boutique hotel downtown looking for an events coordinator. Interested. I stared at the message, an idea forming. Maybe it was time to start editing my own story on my own terms. After all, I'd just learned from the best about how to carefully craft a narrative. I texted back one word, yes. Downstairs, I could hear Vivian's arrival, her laughter echoing through the house like it always did, demanding attention. But for the first time, I didn't feel the familiar pang of inadequacy. Instead, I felt something new, determination. Let them keep their edited versions of the past. I was about to write my own future, and this time I wouldn't be relegated to the background. The family dinner that night felt like a carefully choreographed performance, with my mother as the director making sure everyone hit their marks. I sat there, pushing food around my plate, the weight of those edited videos still heavy in my mind. So, we've finally settled on the plaza for the engagement party, Mom announced, beaming at Vivian. Their grand ballroom is simply perfect for the guest list we're working with. Vivian nodded, somehow managing to look both pleased and concerned at the same time. I just hope we can get the flowers I want. The florist said peonies might be difficult this time of year. Oh, darling, leave that to me, Mom assured her. I know people who can get anything. I I took a deep breath. This was my moment. I got a new job today, I said, trying to inject some enthusiasm into my voice. Events coordinator at the Morrison Hotel downtown. Dad looked up from his phone briefly. The Morrison? Isn't that the place that's been struggling lately? It's boutique, I defended. They're going for a more intimate experience. Intimate is just another word for small, Mom said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Vivian, dear, have you decided on the menu tasting date? I gripped my fork tighter, watching my news evaporate like steam from my untouched soup. The Morrison is owned by Nathaniel Hawthorne, I added a bit louder. He's quite well known in the hospitality industry. Oh yes, the Hawthorns, Vivian chimed in, suddenly interested. Didn't they just acquire that resort chain in the Caribbean? James mentioned them at work. Of course she'd know that. James, her perfect fiancé, worked at one of the city's top investment firms. I'd only learned about the job through Clara's connection, and suddenly my achievement felt smaller. Speaking of James, Mom segued smoothly. Vivian, tell us about the engagement photos. The lighting in the garden shots was just divine. I pushed my chair back abruptly, the legs scraping against the hardwood floor. I should go. Early start tomorrow. But you've hardly touched your food, Mom protested. And we haven't even discussed your role in the engagement party yet. My role? Well, yes. We thought you might want to help with the guest check-in. Something behind the scenes where you'd be comfortable. The irony wasn't lost on me. Behind the scenes, exactly where I'd been placed in all those family videos. Actually, I said, standing up, I don't think I'll be able to help much. My new job will keep me pretty busy. But it's your sister's engagement, Mom said, her voice taking on that slight edge I knew so well. Family comes first, Alara. Does it? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Because from what I've seen today, family comes with quite a few editing choices. The room went silent. Vivian looked confused, but Mom's face had gone slightly pale. Dad was suddenly very interested in his wine glass. What's that supposed to mean? Vivian asked. I almost told her. About the videos, about the careful curation of our family history. But looking at her face, genuinely puzzled, completely unaware, I realized she was as much a victim of Mom's manipulation as I was. Just in a different way. Nothing, I said finally. I'm just tired. I'll call about the engagement party details later. As I grabbed my coat, I heard Mom's voice behind me. Alara, wait. What were you doing in the attic today? I turned back, meeting her gaze. Just clearing space for Vivian's perfect moment, Mom. Isn't that what we always do? The drive home to my apartment was a blur of streetlights and racing thoughts. My phone buzzed several times, probably Mom trying to smooth things over or Vivian wondering what had gotten into me. Instead of answering, I called Clara. Hey, I said when she picked up. Remember that apartment you mentioned was available in your building? Is it still open? Yeah, why? Are you finally ready to leave the nest? I thought about those edited videos, about being pushed into the background of my own life. More than ready. It's time to start my own story. Come over now, Clara said. We'll call the landlord together. As I changed direction toward Clara's place, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Miss Mitchell, this is Nathaniel Hawthorne. Looking forward to having you join our team at the Morrison. I have a feeling you're going to shake things up around here. He had no idea how right he was. 2 weeks into my job at the Morrison, I found myself working late, organizing files in the hotel's dusty back office. The quiet felt like a relief after days of dodging my mother's calls and Vivian's concerned texts. That's when I found it, a leather-bound ledger tucked behind a stack of old invoices, its pages filled with handwritten notes that made my stomach drop. The numbers didn't add up. Not even close. I'd spent enough time around my father's accounting firm to recognize creative bookkeeping when I saw it. The Morrison's official records showed steady profits. But this private ledger told a different story, one of mounting debt and suspicious transfers to offshore accounts. Burning the midnight oil? I jumped, nearly dropping the ledger. Nathaniel Hawthorne stood in the doorway, his usual polished appearance slightly rumpled at this late hour. Something in his expression made me wonder how long he'd been watching. "Just getting organized," I said, trying to casually close the ledger. "There's a lot to learn." He stepped into the office, his eyes fixed on the book in my hands. "Interesting choice of reading material." "I was just filing." "No," he interrupted, walking closer. "You were investigating. Tell me, what did you find?" The directness of his question caught me off guard. I'd expected denials or threats, not this calm inquiry. "The numbers are wrong," I said finally. "All of them. And there are regular payments to a company called VMS Holdings that doesn't seem to exist." Nathaniel's laugh surprised me. "You're good. Took my last events coordinator 6 months to notice anything unusual. You found it in 2 weeks. Is this some kind of test?" "In a way." He settled into the chair across from my desk. "The Morrison isn't just struggling, Alara. It's drowning. And I need someone who can see the truth behind carefully constructed facades." The irony of his words wasn't lost on me. I'd spent my whole life seeing through my family's perfect image. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've been watching you. You're different from the others, you understand how appearances can lie." He leaned forward. "I'm offering you a promotion. Director of Operations. Help me save this place. By cooking the books? By finding creative solutions." He pulled out his phone, showing me a news article about my sister's fiancé's investment firm. "Like your future brother-in-law's company does." My blood ran cold. "You know about James?" "I know about all the Mitchell family connections, including how they've systematically overlooked their younger daughter's potential." His smile was sympathetic but calculating. "I'm offering you a chance to prove them wrong." I stared at the ledger, thinking about all those edited family videos, about being pushed into the background, about my mother's dismissal of my new job. What exactly would this position involve? Smart girl. Always get the details first. He stood up. "Come to my office tomorrow morning. We'll discuss the specifics then." "And Alara." He paused at the door. "Bring that ledger. We'll need it." After he left, I sat there for a long time, my phone buzzing with another text from Vivian. "Mom's worried sick. Please call. Also, need to discuss your dress for the engagement party. Don't want it clashing with the bridesmaids." I looked at the ledger, then at my sister's text. 2 versions of the same story, one hidden, one carefully presented to the world. Just like those family videos. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Clara. "Hey, you okay? Haven't heard from you in days. Remember what we talked about? Don't lose yourself trying to prove something to them." But maybe that was exactly what I needed to do. Prove something. Show them all what the overlooked Mitchell daughter was capable of. I picked up the ledger and slipped it into my bag. Tomorrow morning, I'd hear Nathaniel out. After all, I'd learned from the best about how to craft a narrative. As I left the office, I passed my reflection in the hotel's brass elevator doors. For a moment, I barely recognized myself. There was something different in my eyes, something harder. I thought about what Nathaniel had said about creative solutions, about proving them wrong. Maybe it was time to start editing my own story. The first sign that I was losing myself came during lunch with Clara at our usual cafe. She took one look at my new designer blazer courtesy of my recent promotion and frowned. "That's very Vivian of you," she said, stirring her coffee. I smoothed down the expensive fabric, trying to ignore how right she was. "It's just work clothes." "Is that what we're calling it?" Clara leaned forward. "Because the Alara I know wouldn't be caught dead in anything that screamed corporate success story." "Maybe that Alara was afraid of success," I shot back, then immediately regretted my tone. No, that Alara had integrity. Clara's voice was quiet but firm. The same Alara who spent 3 hours helping me prep for job interviews last month hasn't returned my calls in 2 weeks. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Another message from Nathaniel. Meeting with potential investors at 3. Where the confidence you've earned. I have to go, I said, gathering my things. Work emergency. Right. Clara's expression was unreadable. Just like the last 3 times. I hesitated, then pulled out my wallet to pay for lunch. A receipt fell out from the Morrison's bar dated last night. I quickly stuffed it back in, but not before catching a glimpse of the amount. Had I really spent that much entertaining clients? Al, Clara called as I turned to leave. Whatever game you're playing with Nathaniel Hawthorne, make sure you're not the one being played. Her words followed me back to the hotel, where I found Lucas Graham waiting in the lobby. The new restaurant consultant we'd hired was becoming a regular fixture, and something about his honest eyes made me uncomfortable lately. Rough morning, he asked, falling into step beside me. Nothing I can't handle. That's not what I asked. He stopped walking, forcing me to face him. The staff is talking, Alara. About the changes, the new policies, the way Nathaniel's running things. Change is necessary for growth, I repeated Nathaniel's favorite phrase. Is that you talking or him? Before I could answer, Nathaniel emerged from his office. Alara, perfect timing. Lucas, we'll have to continue this later. In Nathaniel's office, I found myself staring at a familiar name on a document. James Anderson, my sister's fiancé. Your future brother-in-law's firm is interested in acquiring the Morrison, Nathaniel announced. With some creative restructuring, of course. You mean hiding the debt? I mean presenting our best narrative. He smiled. Something you've become quite good at. I thought about the staff whispers Lucas mentioned, about Clara's concerned looks, about the growing stack of receipts I'd been helping adjust. What's the catch? James doesn't know you work here. Neither does your sister, I assume. Nathaniel's smile never wavered. It would be best to keep it that way during negotiations. You want me to lie to my family? I want you to protect your success. Our success. He slid a contract across the desk. Speaking of which, time to make your position permanent. Director of Operations, with a significant stake in the hotel's future. My hand hovered over the contract. Through the office window, I could see Lucas talking to the bar staff, his honest face concerned. Think about it, Nathaniel said softly. Everything you've wanted, recognition, respect, success, it's all right here. No more living in Vivian's shadow. My phone buzzed again, a message from Vivian. Mom's planning a surprise bridal shower. Please come. Miss my little sister. I looked at the contract, then at my phone, then at Lucas through the window. The person I was becoming felt simultaneously more powerful and less real with each passing day. I need time to review the contract, I said finally. Nathaniel nodded, but his eyes had cooled slightly. Of course. Just remember, opportunities like this don't wait forever. As I left his office, I caught my reflection in the window. The designer blazer suddenly felt like a costume, and the woman wearing it looked less like me and more like someone else's carefully edited version of success. The question was, whose version was I becoming? I found Nathaniel's weakness in an old newspaper article buried in the hotel's archives. The headline read, Hawthorne Hotel's Scandal, Brothers' Betrayal Leads to Family Empire Split. The photo showed a younger Nathaniel, standing beside a man who shared his features but not his calculated smile. The date caught my eye exactly 5 years ago today. Doing some light reading? I jumped. Lucas stood in the doorway of the archive room, holding 2 coffee cups. Research, I said, quickly minimizing the browser window. For the renovation project. Right. He set 1 coffee on my desk. Because old scandal articles are great inspiration for interior design. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with Nathaniel's message. Meeting in 10. Bring the projection reports. And Alara? Make sure they tell the right story. Lucas caught my expression. You know, for someone who hates being edited out of her family's narrative, you're getting pretty good at editing other people's stories. His words hit like a slap. That's different. Is it? He picked up the newspaper article I'd printed. Nathaniel's brother accused him of cooking books and stealing clients. Sound familiar? I should go. I gathered my papers, avoiding his eyes. Nathaniel's waiting. He's always waiting, isn't he? Always one more meeting, one more adjustment, one more compromise. I paused at the door. Why do you care? Because the woman I met 2 months ago wouldn't recognize who she's becoming. In Nathaniel's office, I found him staring at an old photo on his desk, him and his brother at some corporate event, both smiling. He quickly turned it face down when I entered. The reports? He asked. I handed them over, watching him scan the adjusted numbers. I found something interesting in the archives. His hands stilled. Did you? Your brother went public with accusations about financial fraud. The same kind we're doing now. Marcus always was self-righteous. Nathaniel's smile didn't reach his eyes. He thought exposing me would make him the hero. Instead, it destroyed our family's legacy. Sometimes, Alara, protecting the narrative is more important than the truth. My phone buzzed, a message from Clara. Found something about the Morrison you need to see. Urgent. The investors are reviewing our proposal, Nathaniel continued. Once James's firm commits, everything changes. For both of us. And my sister. What happens when she realizes her fiancé is being deceived? By whom? His voice was soft. The hotel? Or her own sister? Another buzz, Vivian this time. Mom's hysterical. Why aren't you coming to the bridal shower? What's going on with you? You're not protecting a legacy, I said slowly. You're hiding from one betrayal by creating another. Nathaniel stood, his facade cracking slightly. Careful, Alara. Remember who gave you the chance to prove yourself when everyone else overlooked you. You mean like you proved yourself? By destroying your brother's reputation to save your own. His laugh was cold. At least I committed to my choice. You're still playing both sides, the dutiful daughter at home, the ruthless executive here. Which version is real, Alara? My phone buzzed again, Lucas. Whatever he's offering, it's not worth losing yourself. I looked at the reports in Nathaniel's hands, thinking about edited videos and hidden ledgers, about brothers who became enemies and sisters who became strangers. I need some air, I said, turning toward the door. The contract needs your signature by tomorrow, Nathaniel called after me. Time to choose who you want to be. In the hallway, I nearly collided with Lucas. He studied me, his hands warm on my shoulders. Clara's downstairs, he said quietly. She found something about Nathaniel's connection to your sister's fiancé. It's not good, Alara. I looked back at Nathaniel's office, where he stood watching us through the glass, then down at my phone with its cascade of messages from my past and present colliding. The woman in the reflection of the hotel's polished walls looked trapped, caught between who she was and who she was becoming. It was time to decide which version would survive. Clara spread the documents across my kitchen counter like a deck of tarot cards, each one revealing a darker future than the last. James isn't just investing in the Morrison, she said. He's using it to hide losses from his other ventures. And guess who's helping him? Vivian, I whispered, recognizing my sister's signature on several documents. She's been working with Nathaniel for months, using her engagement to James to orchestrate the whole thing. The Morrison is just their latest target. Before I could process this, my phone rang, Mom. I let it go to voicemail, but she called again immediately. And again. Finally, I answered. What? You need to come home right now. Her voice shook. It's about Vivian. Something's happened. 20 minutes later, I walked into my parents' house to find my mother pacing the living room, my father sitting stone-faced in his usual chair. and Vivian crying on the couch. "The engagement's off," Mom announced. "James discovered some irregularities in their joint accounts. He's threatening to go public." "How much?" I asked, looking at Vivian. "3 million," she whispered. "I was trying to help the Morrisons' acquisition. Nathaniel said it was foolproof." "Nathaniel?" Mom's head snapped up. "What does Nathaniel Hawthorne have to do with this?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "Why don't you tell them, Vivi? About how you and Nathaniel plan to use James's firm to hide the Morrisons' debt? Or should I tell them about the fake accounts you both created?" The room went silent. Vivian's tears stopped abruptly. "How do you know about that?" she asked. "Because I work there. I'm the one who's been helping hide your mess." "You?" Mom sank into a chair. "But you're just an events coordinator. Director of operations, actually. Nathaniel promoted me after I found the original ledger. He thought I'd be useful, keeping the family connection quiet while you and James handled the acquisition." Dad finally spoke. "So you knew about all of this?" "I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know my perfect sister was behind it." "Don't you dare judge me," Vivian snapped. "You have no idea what it's like, having to be perfect all the time, having to live up to everyone's expectations." "No idea?" I grabbed my phone, pulled up the video I'd found in the attic. "Let's talk about expectations, Vivi. Let's talk about how Mom edited our entire childhood to make you look better." "That's enough," Mom interrupted. "No, it's not. You created this. You taught Vivian that appearance matters more than truth. And now you want me to help fix her mistakes." "We're family," Dad said quietly. "Family?" I turned to him. "Where was family when you let Mom push me into the background? Where was family when you sat silently at every dinner, watching me disappear?" My phone buzzed, "Lucas, don't sign anything. Nathaniel's brother is here. You need to hear what he has to say." "Alara, please," Vivian reached for my hand. "I need your help. You're the only one who understands how the Morrison works." I looked at her tear-stained face, at Mom's desperate expression, at Dad's distant gaze. Everything I'd ever wanted, their attention, their respect, their need, was right here. All I had to do was help cover up one more lie. "No," I said quietly. "I won't help you edit this story." "Then you're no better than Nathaniel's brother," Vivian spat. Another self-righteous betrayal. "Maybe," I headed for the door. "Or maybe I'm finally done being edited out of my own life." "If you walk out that door," Mom called after me, "you're choosing strangers over family." I paused, my hand on the doorknob. "No, Mom. I'm choosing truth over lies. Something this family never taught me." As I drove toward the Morrison, where Lucas and Nathaniel's brother waited, my phone lit up with messages from my family. I ignored them all. The truth was coming, ready or not. And this time, no one would be able to edit it away. Marcus Hawthorne looked exactly like his brother, but his eyes held none of Nathaniel's calculation. We sat in the Morrison's empty bar as he laid out the final pieces of the puzzle I'd been struggling to solve. "Nathaniel's been running this scheme for years," he explained. "Find struggling hotels, create fake debt, then use that leverage to force sales at reduced prices." "And Vivian?" I asked. "Where does she fit in? Your sister approached him 6 months ago, offering James's firm as a way to legitimize the transactions. She wanted to prove herself in the business world, and Nathaniel knew exactly how to exploit that desire." The hotel's grand ballroom doors opened, and I heard Nathaniel's voice carrying from the lobby. The investor meeting was starting, the one where he and Vivian would present their carefully crafted lies to James's firm. "It's all in here," Marcus handed me a USB drive. "Every transaction, every fake account, every edited record, including the ones you helped create." I flinched at that last part, but Lucas squeezed my shoulder. "You can still make it right." The sound of applause drifted from the ballroom. I stood up, USB drive clutched in my hand. Time to crash a party. Inside the ballroom, Nathaniel was mid-presentation, Vivian standing proudly beside him. Their eyes widened when they saw me walk in, Marcus and Lucas flanking me. As I was saying, Nathaniel recovered quickly. The Morrison's growth potential is based on lies, I interrupted, plugging the USB into the presentation laptop. Just like everything else about this deal. The screen behind Nathaniel flickered, showing the real numbers, the fake accounts, the carefully constructed fraud that we'd all helped build. Elara, Vivian stepped forward, her voice sharp with warning. What are you doing? What you taught me to do, Vivi. I'm editing the narrative. Only this time I'm putting the truth back in. James stood up from the investor table, his face darkening as he scanned the numbers. What is this? Ask your fiancée, I said. Ask her about the account she helped create, the money she helped hide. Ask her why she really wanted to rush the engagement. That's enough. Nathaniel's facade finally cracked. Security. They won't come, Marcus spoke up. The entire staff has already seen these numbers. They're tired of being part of your lies, brother. Vivian turned to James, tears starting. I can explain. Like you explained the edited family videos? I cut in. Like Mom explained why I was always in the background? We're done explaining, Vivi. Done editing. Done hiding. You ungrateful little, Nathaniel started toward me, but Lucas stepped between us. The SEC has been notified, Lucas announced to the room. Along with the press. The real numbers go public in an hour. The investors were already standing, gathering their things, murmuring about legal action. James wouldn't look at Vivian, who had crumpled into a chair. You're destroying everything, she whispered. No, Vivi. I'm just showing what was already broken. Nathaniel laughed, a hollow sound. Congratulations, Elara. You've become exactly what you claim to hate, someone who betrays family for personal gain. The difference is, I'm not doing this for gain. I turned to the assembled crowd. I'm doing it because sometimes the truth matters more than the story we tell about it. As security finally arrived, for Nathaniel, not for me, I watched my carefully constructed world of success crumble. But for the first time since finding those videos in the attic, I felt real. Vivian caught my arm as I turned to leave. Why? She asked. Why couldn't you just help me fix this? I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw what I'd never noticed before. She was as trapped by our family's expectations as I had been by their dismissal. Because some things shouldn't be fixed, Vivi. Some things need to be broken so we can build something true instead. As I walked out of the ballroom, Lucas and Clara falling into step beside me. I heard Marcus talking to the investors about his plans to restore the Morrison legitimately. About starting over with truth as the foundation. Starting over. Maybe that's what we all needed. Behind me, I could hear Vivian crying, Nathaniel arguing with security, and the sound of carefully constructed facades finally shattering. It wasn't a perfect ending, but at least it was an honest one. 6 months after the scandal broke, I stood in front of the Morrisons' newly restored facade. The brass letters above the entrance now read, "The Graham and Mitchell Hotel," though I still caught myself calling it the Morrison sometimes. Old habits die hard. Lucas appeared beside me, coffee in hand. Ready for opening day? Before I could answer, Clara burst through the front doors. You need to see this, she said, waving an envelope. Inside my office, smaller than Nathaniel's old space but with better light, I opened the letter. It was from my father, his familiar handwriting somehow both strange and comforting. I found this in the attic, I read aloud. Behind those old videotapes. Inside was a photograph I'd never seen before, me at my first piano recital, beaming at the camera. On the back, in my father's writing, Elara's moment, the real version. There's more, Clara nudged me. The letter continued. I kept the original versions of all those videos. Your mother meant well, but she never understood that perfection isn't what makes us worthy of love. I should have spoken up sooner. Should have shown you that someone saw the truth." "He knew," I whispered. "All this time." Lucas squeezed my hand as I read the final lines. "I'm proud of what you did at the Morrison. Proud that you chose truth over appearance. You've always been stronger than we gave you credit for." A knock at the door interrupted us. Marcus Hawthorne stood there, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen his brother. "The investors are here for the final walkthrough." As we headed downstairs, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure through the lobby windows. Vivian, standing hesitantly on the sidewalk. "I'll handle the investors," Lucas offered. I found Vivian staring at the new hotel sign. She looked different, simpler, without her usual perfect facade. "Community service suits you," I said, noting her volunteer organization t-shirt. "Turns out helping actual people is more satisfying than impressing fake ones." She turned to face me. "I saw Dad's letter. Mom's furious that he kept those original videos. And you." "I'm..." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I'm learning to live without editing everything. It's harder, but better." Inside, I could hear the buzz of activity as staff prepared for opening day. My staff. Our hotel. Built on truth this time. "Have you heard from Nathaniel?" I asked. "He took a plea deal. Marcus visits him sometimes." She smiled slightly. "Apparently, they're finally having honest conversations." Speaking of honest conversations, I hesitated. "We're having a small opening ceremony tonight. Nothing fancy. Just real people celebrating something real." Vivian's eyes welled up, but she blinked back the tears. "Progress, not perfection." "I'd like that." Later, as guests filled the lobby, I watched my unlikely family come together. Clara directing staff with her usual flair, Lucas charming investors, Marcus sharing renovation stories, and Vivian surprisingly helping wherever needed, no spotlight required. My father arrived last, standing quietly at the back until I approached him. "The original videos," I said. "Why didn't you ever show them to me?" "Because you needed to find your own truth," he replied. "Not one I saved for you." As I took the podium for my opening speech, I looked at the faces before me, some family by blood, others by choice. All part of a story that no one had edited or controlled. "The Graham and Mitchell isn't just a hotel," I began. "It's a reminder that sometimes we have to tear down false facades to build something genuine. That success isn't about appearing perfect, it's about being real." I caught Vivian's eye in the crowd. She nodded slightly, understanding passing between us. We'd both been trapped by expectations, just on opposite sides of the same warped mirror. "So here's to new beginnings," I raised my glass. "And to all the messy, unedited, beautiful truths that make them worth fighting for." Later, as the party wound down, I found the old Morrison ledger in my office. I kept it as a reminder of where this all began. But looking at it now, I realized I didn't need reminders anymore. Some stories are better left unedited, their imperfect truths more valuable than any polished facade could ever be. I dropped the ledger in the shredder and went to join my family, all of them in celebrating our perfectly imperfect new chapter.